What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we're out here on the road in my RS5 for today's video because it's been 2 years since I've purchased this car, just about, and felt it was long overdue to do a bit of a recap of where things are at with this car, talk about what's been done to it since my extended warranty ran out, which there's a bit of a story to. And also just think more about what might be next. You know, I've owned this car for a couple of years now. February 28th, 2024 to be exact, was when I drove this car home from Wisconsin after purchasing it. Recording this now on March 21st of 2026. So just over 2 years in the RS5, and time has flown by, I must say. You know, I usually don't want to keep cars for too long. My 4Runner was a bit of an exception, but there's so many cars out there I want to explore and own throughout the course of my life. So I'm starting to think, you know, when is too long for the RS5? When should I get rid of it? So I don't know the answer to that yet, really. You know, I'm not tired of it at all, which is a good thing. I still love this car, and I still love every time I get up and, you know, jump in it or park and walk away from it. I'm just awestruck by how good it looks and how special the car is and how awesome it still makes me feel, you know? So what more could you ask for as an enthusiast? But even still, I don't want to get lost in that infatuation too much, because there's so many other cool things out there that I want to try, and some of which I'm actually going to test drive today. I'm on my way out to some dealerships that I know around the Chicago suburbs to go check out some cars that I'm interested in that I've never driven before. So I want to get a little bit of a feel for those. I'm not going to get into those exact cars today. But first, let's just start with the RS5 and talk about how things are going. So if you remember in my early videos about this car when I first got it, I purchased it with a third-party warranty that the previous owner had. They had purchased when they bought the car used, and it was transferable to me, which is, of course, a great benefit. Only had to pay like $100 transfer fee to the warranty firm that he used, and then it was under my name until about late May of 2025. So coming up on almost a year of being purely out-of-pocket maintenance expense warranty-free in this car. So how has that gone? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag. The warranty, whatever one it was, I forget, it was some generic firm, you know, it wasn't a well-known one or anything, but they did great. They covered everything, never any questions, no deductible, got every single thing I ever asked for out of that warranty, never got any claim declined, regardless of if I got it done at an Audi dealer or an independent. So great experience there, got lots of money out of that. Then, of course, warranty expires in May. Everything's fine until about August or September of 2025. The electromechanical power steering unit in this car goes out. Probably around, I don't know, 96,000 miles or so at the time. And yeah, that's a big one. So, you know, the car is drivable, of course, just without power steering. And it's a big job, and it's very expensive, and of course out of warranty. So couldn't go, you know, to anyone for help. But I found out through research that apparently on these B8 and B8.5 gen Audi cars, A5, Q5, RS, etc., there was a extended factory warranty coverage issued for the power steering because it had been, of course, no surprise, known to fail. So they issued coverage for that was 10 years, 120,000 miles. Well within the mileage limit, of course, but the time was a bit of a gamble. So this car is a 2015. They technically issued that warranty, I believe it was based on the manufacture date of the car, which of course would be like late 2014, early 2015 at best. And this was happening in late summer 2025. So I knew time would probably not be on my side, but of course I opened a claim with Audi of America to speak to that warranty coverage they had and see if they would cover me or at least help me out in any way. Long story short, went back and forth with them for a while, and it turns out that the coverage for the electromechanical steering unit on this particular car expired in December 2024. So, classic, right? Not only does it happen after my extended warranty goes out, but it also happens after Audi's own warranty that they issued gets, you know, expired because of the limits they put on it. Even though, obviously, it's the same exact issue that that they put it in place for, and I couldn't take advantage of it. So that was unfortunate. But got it fixed, right? Had to. No choice around not doing that job, or obviously selling a car with non-functional power steering. So had to do it at a dealer. Got a bunch of quotes. Long story short, ended up costing over $5,000. Even the independents weren't that much cheaper for this job. You have to have special equipment to program the unit to Audi's factory settings and so forth, whatever, because it's overly engineered and complicated and electrical. It's not a traditional power steering pump, rack and pinion situation. It's fully electric, and the brain of the power steering is like in the unit itself, so you have to replace the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I got that fixed. That was pretty painful. That was probably the biggest repair bill I'd ever seen on this car, including the ones that got fully covered under the third-party warranty I had. So yeah, that sucked. But now it's brand new, so great. I got brand new power steering. Anyway, so that was a rough one that shouldn't have happened, and if it did happen, should have been covered, ideally. But later, in 2025, the maintenance costs kept going up because I knew at the time of doing the power steering job, I knew that my front brakes were going to be due soon. So I chose to do that soon after at my independent Audi specialist shop around October. And that's a big one too, because brakes are no joke on this car. I forget the exact part breakdown, but I did a few things in that job. I did the front brakes, which is of course pad and rotors all at once. And then I did a brake fluid flush job. It was also due for that. And then I also replaced, there were like these two plastic pieces under the hood that connect the feed from the cowl grill basically at the front into like the intake tubes that go into the engine. They were cracked. I knew that was the case when I bought it. Always kind of bothered me, so I just got those replaced while the car was in for the brake job. All in all, that service was about $4,000. So yeah, 2025 was a big one. That same shop also discovered I was missing some screws in the under tray cover under the car that I guess probably were missing for a long time and no one ever told me. Got those replaced for like $70. They also found that the center exhaust clamp that holds like the two main sections of the exhaust together in the center of the car was not, someone replaced it with an aftermarket unit, which I was not aware of, and they also used like this poor material to kind of get it all molded and clamped together, and it was just kind of ugly. It wasn't causing any concerns or performance benefit, but it just was really dirty and it was causing some unwanted rattles and stuff, so I had them replace that soon after my brake visit for another $500. So all out of pocket, of course. This was all in 2025, made it a big year for maintenance. And then all I've done this year so far in 2026 was the standard annual maintenance for oil change, filters, full inspection, the usual that I do usually around March. So that's where I'm at on the maintenance side. Otherwise, the car is rock solid, knock on wood. No actual wood in here, just carbon fiber. But things are good. The car has not struck me with any out of the ordinary warning lights since that power steering situation. Yeah, it's been good. There's nothing else big I'm really expecting. I'm here at 97,000 miles right now, which means in just over 2 years, I've only put about just over 10,000 miles on it. So I'm really not driving this car a whole lot. Again, I live in the city, don't have a need to drive it every day right now. But I always get it out, of course, a few times a week. Not as much in the winter, but stretching its legs as much as I can when I don't actually need to drive somewhere. And much like today, we have a nice winter weekend here in the city, so I like to get out and go for a drive. But there shouldn't be anything big coming, outside of any surprises. The only thing I am aware of are the front control arms. The bushings or the rubber components within those are just starting to crack. The independent shop that I service with alerted me of that the last time I was in. It's just the very beginning. It would be a waste of money to replace anything or do anything with that now. With the rate that I drive this car, could probably go another 2 years or maybe more before the control arms actually start to be a problem and require full replacement. So, of course, that's a big job. I haven't priced that out yet, but I know that's one of the big ticket items on this car. Once they get up there in mileage, it makes sense, right? Car's almost at 100,000 miles. It's going to need some bigger stuff that's just aging because it's wearing down and cracking and getting brittle and getting driven. I don't drive this car very hard, but prior owners, maybe not, no way to know. So that will, of course, accelerate the wear of like suspension components and bushings and boots and things like that. So otherwise, I don't really have any complaints or concerns. I mean, being an RS car that's almost at 100,000 miles and it's out of my third-party warranty, there is always this sort of aura of unknown and uncertainty around it, which you just have to accept when you get into any sort of older performance car that's up there in miles. It's just going to happen. I thought about maybe purchasing a different third-party warranty last year when the one I had was expiring. Of course, at the mileage and the time I would be looking for, they're pretty pricey, although they weren't that much more expensive than the cost I had to spend on that power steering job. So luckily, if I did that, coincidence would have happened that it basically would have almost paid for itself. So whatever, what can you do? You live and learn. But now I'm just kind of thinking, how much longer do I want to keep it? You know, knowing that it's just going to keep getting up there with eventually, you know, having some bigger maintenance items. It's unavoidable. And again, just wanting to experience other cars. There's not much more I want to do with this car. It's not like I want to like track it or anything or take it on some rally or crazy experience or road trip. You know, I take it to lots of Cars and Coffee and shows and stuff around the city. That's always fun. I go on little cruises sometimes with friends to and from events like that. So yeah, I don't know. There's not much more on the list that I feel like I have missed out on if I were to sell this car right now. But man, if I would sell it right now, I'd miss it, you know? This is such a great car. It's such a great daily, you know, for my use case. I only have room for one car. This isn't something where it's like we've got an SUV or something else that just handles the day-to-day, and this is like the excuse weekend car. I mean, I don't have to drive every day, but when we drive somewhere, when I have to go do errands, when I have to drive to the suburbs or go on a little road trip up to Milwaukee or something, it's this car, you know, this is the one that I'm using, and I'm excited to use it. It's such a thrill to drive. Yes, the suspension beats you up because it's an RS car. It's a little harder than it probably needs to be. But this, you know, this isn't intended to be like a super sharp, dynamic masterpiece of a car. You know, it's a little heavy. It's got the engine out in front of the front wheel, so you got that traditional, stereotypical Audi understeer and so forth. But for what I ask of it, it's great. You know, I'm driving in comfort mode right now. It's super comfortable, and I've got my Apple CarPlay unit in there, which makes it great for daily driving use, of course. And everything works, you know, like everything in here, the electric and the just creature comforts and whatever I need to be doing in it works fine for my needs. And it's all weather, right? You know, it's got Quattro, it's got all season tires on it. I don't take it out in blizzards and stuff, you know, there's no need for that. But if I'm driving home from somewhere and it starts snowing, or the roads aren't too perfectly clear yet, or there's a rainstorm, it's fine, you know, it's a car at the end of the day. It'll handle it fine. This car doesn't have any, like, you know, things to worry about in terms of excessive rust or frame rot or anything like that. I keep it clean. I've got full front PPF, so I don't have to worry about, you know, taking rocks and salt or anything to the paint. It's great. And like, again, for me, cars are such an emotional thing. When I drive it, I'm still excited to drive it. When I put it in dynamic mode and hammer down on the exhaust with the valves open, oh, like that, and it just hauls. It's just such a thrill, and I'm not tired of that at all yet. And the noise, I mean, my God, the noise. I don't know how much that comes through on camera, but the, you know, 8,000 plus RPM red line on this car, when it gets up there in the rev range, it just hangs and hangs, and it sings, and it feels so good, and it just always puts a smile on my face. I'm just really not tired of it yet. And again, like this car, in the world of, you know, semi-modern performance cars, especially in Audi's lineup, it holds such a special place. Like, there's no more TT, there's no more R8. There's stuff coming in the future, allegedly, with the Concept C and whatever. But, you know, and the B9 RS5 had a coupe, but it just wasn't as special. You know, it lost the V8. It wasn't as striking. The, you know, design and stuff, in my opinion, kind of went downhill at that point. I mean, it was fine, but the Sportback actually I thought looked better for the next RS5. But the coupe, they're not that popular. They weren't, I don't know, they didn't really do it for me. This car, like, it just, the Walter De Silva design on this, it's just so good. Like, I just never get tired of looking at this thing, and it's in this nice panther black paint that just shines in the summer sun, and it's got the original you know, flower like spoke wheels on it from the black optic package. In this spec that I have, it just looks so good, and I have a hard time thinking, like, yeah, if I bought this next car, I'm thinking about, would I look back and think, well, shit, that car is cool, but it's no RS5, you know? I don't know, I kind of think I would, but it's always hard to let go. You know, the grass is always greener no matter what you do and many things in life, so I'm trying to, like, not get hung up on that too much. I love my 4Runner, I love my Mustang, I loved all my cars that I've had in my whole life so far. This is only the third. I gotta learn to, like, just kind of let them move on when I'm ready, even though they're great and I don't have a like objective reason to sell it. You know, like it car's paid for, it's expensive to insure, it's expensive to fuel, but like whatever. I knew all these things going in. I don't have any reason to get rid of it. That being said, let's talk about what I'm thinking about if I were to sell it. So there's a lot. Naturally, I'm a bit of a scatterbrain. There's all these different things that I want, new and old, foreign, domestic, Japanese, whatever. There's a lot of stuff that interests me that sometimes comes up on the auction sites, and I'm like, damn, that would be cool. And it's kind of just like a spur-of-the-moment thing that gets in my head, or there's other things that I keep coming back to that I think would be cool. So let's focus on the things that I kind of keep coming back to mentally as potentially a good daily, because again, this would just be replaced with another daily that would have to serve as my everyday car. So I love, people are going to laugh given what's going on with this brand right now, but I love Jaguar. I think there's so many cool Jaguars in the last 15 years that I would love to own. You know, the brand has kind of gone in this weird space now where they're not selling new cars really. They're allegedly coming out with this Type 00 whatever thing that's going to be full EV, like hyper exclusive luxury car, whatever. We'll see if any of that actually happens. I have my doubts. But as a result of all this and some of the hate they've gotten for that move and the marketing behind it, the used car market for Jaguars has gotten very favorable. Of course, they're also expensive to maintain. They're not known for being the most reliable brand. Expensive to insure, whatever, there's downsides. But I love F-types. I would love an F-type coupe. I'm not a convertible guy, but the coupes, later in the run, probably like 2016 to 2020, before the facelift. I don't like the facelift designs, but the pre-facelift F-types, the Rs with the V8s, I think are awesome and would make a great daily. They have all-wheel drive, they have 550 horsepower, they look incredible. They're one of the best-looking cars out there in the last 15 years. Of course, it's a little smaller, a little less practical, smaller trunk, no actual back seat at all, smaller vehicle, less practical for a daily. But I don't have kids, I don't have pets, you know, whatever, big deal. I could get away with that. I just think they're so cool, and I've heard great things from people that have owned them. I think it would be really cool to own an SVR. At the end of the day, you know, that's the top spec of that F-Type. It's pretty rare. It's got 575 horsepower, but they're hard to come by in a good spec, and they're also still, you know, it's quite a premium for really just like a harsher ride, some better aesthetics that look more aggressive, and like 25 more horsepower. So I don't know if it's worth it really over that standard F-Type R that you can get for a very reasonable, like you can get a well-sorted, clean F-Type R with, you know, mid-range miles for like 40K or less even. You know, depends on the spec and everything too, of course, I guess. But that's a really appealing proposition to me. I would love to find one in fire sand orange metallic. That's the coolest color. I mean, that color on an F-Type SVR coupe is like pinnacle F-Type for me. But the likelihood of finding that at an affordable price is so low. I mean, there's already not many F-Type coupes in the US in general. How many they made in that color, I have no idea. But it's got to be like really low, sub 100 probably. But they did offer, you could get it in the normal F-Type R. I don't know how many of those are out there either, but we'll see. There's some other nice colors for the F-Type R too. It doesn't have to be fire sand, but man, that would be cool. So I really think that would be an interesting move. Again, wouldn't be a car I would keep terribly long, probably even less than this, to be honest. But I would love to own an F-Type at some point. Other Jaguars though, even the cars before that, I love the XK RS in the prior gen of their coupe before the F-Type came out. I love the XF RS sedan. Either one of those are hard to find because production numbers are low, and if you're going to buy that car, in my opinion, you have to get it in that like French racing blue color they made it in. That's the only way to own that car. Now, again, harder to find. Price range definitely still like reasonable because it's older, but also, again, you know, it's older, tech is older, reliability becomes a little bit more of a worry. I don't know. So that one's probably less likely. The other one that I think is interesting is an actual SVR product, which is the F-Pace SVR, the SUV. They made these from, I think, 2018 or 2017 up until right now. They actually are just, I think, like the 2026 model year car is the P575 edition of the SVR, which has the 575 increased horsepower. You could buy those like new now, basically. That's like the only new stock Jaguar left on dealer lots right now. But they've been making them for a while in larger numbers, and there's some cool specs out there. And again, you're getting the F-Type SVR's engine in the F-Pace midsize SUV. You know, do I want an SUV again necessarily right now? I don't know, but I think it's a pretty cool car. I mean, that thing sounds insane. You got, if you get the facelift or like the mid-cycle update models, which I think were 2021 and up, you get updated interior with better fit and finish, better software. The infotainment has been fully redone, along with like some of the other Land Rover products, similar functionality to that. But you get that monster of an engine, and the thing looks pretty sick. It's got the quad exhausts. Again, some really cool colors and specs that they offered on that F-Pace SVR. And those are also getting fairly affordable. You know, under 50 grand, you can get a well-sorted one. So, I don't know. You know, these Jaguars are pretty tempting. A lot of different mixes there between an XF-RS sedan, an F-Type, and an F-Pace SVR. So I don't know. Do you think that's stupid? Like, if anyone's in watching has owned those, please let me know your experience. I've done my research and I'm continuing to look into this, but I always like to hear from what people think about these cars. From what I've seen, the 5-liter supercharged engine that they were using in a lot of those performance Jaguars, you know, it's been around for quite a bit. I've heard it's fairly reliable, but again, I haven't gone too deep yet, so we shall see. But that's what those are several cars I'm thinking about there. On a totally different note, I always thought a Miata RF would be cool. You know, I mean, Miatas is like one of the pinnacle icons of the sports enthusiasts market, right? I don't want a super old one, but I think the NDs are awesome, and the ND RF specifically. I know I said I'm not a convertible guy, so I wouldn't want a normal Miata, but the RF is basically a Targa. You got the hardtop situation. It looks great. ND2 or ND3 Miata RF, I think, would be a really cool car. Again, probably wouldn't keep it for terribly long. It's, you know, it's not like it's like slow car fast, right? It's not crazy powerful. I think they have what, like 185 horsepower now or something. But it would just be fun to own that for a bit, you know. I think it would be probably like a year and a half before I got tired of it, because it is pretty small, you know. Like, we're talking about F-Type being smaller than this. Miata's even smaller, right? Like, true 2-seater roadster, small trunk, small everything, you know. Probably inside. I actually haven't driven an ND, but probably feels a little cramped. So that's one I'm thinking about, and that would be really affordable, right? I mean, you could get a used ND. I mean, you could get a new ND3 RF for, like, I don't know, fully loaded, 35 grand. So, like, the used ones, is just, you know, these cars aren't, like, holding or appreciating in any way. They make a ton of them. You can get a well-sorted one in a nice spec for under 30, no problem. So that would be cool. Porsche, pivoting away from the Japanese stuff back into the European luxury. Porsche's one I'm thinking about. A few options there. I think Cayenne GTS from like 2013, 2016, 17, you get a lot for your money. Not the coolest looking car in my mind, you know, definitely blends in a bit. But man, you get a lot of power in those things, and you get some pretty modern tech, and again, I've heard they're not that bad. So I think that would be cool. Mentally, I would love to hold out and try to find a Peridot green metallic Cayenne GTS like they had back in the press content back in the day when Porsche was making those. That would be so cool. I mean, again, likelihood based on production numbers of finding one in Peridot green. Oh man, that's like something you'd have to own another car and be scouring the auction sites for months to probably try and find one of those. So I don't know if that's going to work. But there's some other cool colors and specs out there too. Panamera GTS from around the same time frame, I think, also gets you a lot. You could even go older and get a Panamera Turbo or Turbo S. Ooh, a lot of power there. That's a lot of car. Like the way those Panameras look, even less. So, I don't know, a little less appealing to me. But then on the more sports car side, I love Caymans. Dream for me would be a Cayman R that they also made in Peridot green metallic. You definitely have to find one in that color if you could. But those Cayman Rs are pretty cool. You get them in a PDK or a manual. Either one would be fine for me. Again, small car, but whew, like, talk about like a sweet spot of Porsche's range. Like, we know that now with all the RS, Cayman, and Boxster GT4 stuff that's going on for several gens now. But before that happened, they had the Cayman R. It was kind of a testing the water situation for Porsche. They didn't have any sort of like all-in GT performance car or even like anything above an S in the Caymans and Boxsters until that Cayman R came out. They're very rare. Under 2,000 of them, I think. Don't know exactly what the U.S. production balance of that is that they exported here, but those are cool. Still too expensive. So it has me thinking about maybe a Cayman S, you know, a 987 Cayman S, or even a 981. Probably a little bit more out of the price range I'm looking for a little bit. Maybe it'd have to be a base Cayman. And, you know, there's a lot of bland specs out there, so I don't know how realistic that is. And again, it wouldn't be a car I would keep as a daily too long. Obviously, you know, it's pretty small and practical. It's rear-wheel drive. It's also going to be expensive to insure and maintain and everything. But I think it would be so cool to own a Cayman, and they're just so attainable. I mean, you can get a 987, a well-sorted 987 Cayman S for 35 and under, you know, depending on the spec and the mileage and history. So that would be cool. Thinking about that. Otherwise, there's some AMGs out there that I keep toying around with. I love the the W212 Mercedes E63 AMG, specifically a wagon, if I could find one that I like. Also like the CLS models. The older CLS 55 with the M113K is pretty cool, but also the newer, like truly end-of-the-run CLS 63S that they made around 2015 to 2018 were the last few model years for that car, with the facelift and the all the updates. Those are really hard to find. That engine and power plant's less reliable, a little more nervous about potentially owning one of those. But anyway, let me know what you think. I don't know, like, steer me one direction or the other. I'm totally open to opinions, and being told that my ideas about these cars as a daily is totally irresponsible and illogical. So if that's what you think, let me know. I want to hear what other people in car communities think, and if they've owned these, would love to hear more about their experience. But, you know, as I explore these things, again, I'm in no rush, because I'm still so happy with this RS5 as I'm just driving around listening to it downshift. Feels so good. And, you know, if I had the space and the money to keep this and get something else, I totally would. But the reality is I only got room for one. Don't really want to be insuring two cars right now when I barely drive one as it is. You know, so just going to be looking to replace it with a different daily at some point here. Maybe that'll be later this year. Maybe it'll be next year. I don't know. I definitely don't want to keep this car for like 4, 5, 6 years or something, but I'm not tired of it yet. So until then, we shall see what else I come across. Maybe some interesting opportunity will come through a friend or someone that I know in the dealership community that has something really appealing that I want to jump on. But for now, the RS5 is strong and healthy. There's nothing else planned for it. As you know, I'm not modifying this car at all. Just maintaining it, keeping it strong and ready for the day that I sell it so that the next owner can have just as good of an experience as I have with my RS5. So anyway, that's a quick 2-year in update about the RS5. Hope you enjoyed watching and learning more about what's been happening with this car and what I'm thinking about for the future. But of course, like and subscribe as always for more content. Let me know in the comments what you think about some of my thoughts, and I will see you in the next video.